Okay.
Alright, so my refutation speech is going to be towards a claim that states that pit bulls are not naturally dangerous or mean. My advocate's three main claims are that pit bulls aren't inherently aggressive, and that pit bull bite records are inaccurate and misidentified, and that pit bulls are helpful members of society. So the first supporting claim that the advocate goes over is that pit bulls aren't inherently aggressive. The advocate supports this claim by adding that dogs are products of nurture, not nature. I believe this is not sound, nor is it relevant to the issue, because all living animals are products of nature, and nurturement towards a specific animal doesn't necessarily result to a specific characteristic. Another little detail they added was that no breed is born mean, and that aggression is based upon the upbringing of the dog. And according to Psychology Today, aggression can still happen even if you discipline your pit bull. Many significant factors such as pain and medical conditions play a large role in aggression. Pain in most cases don't show obvious signs at first, but may make a non-aggressive dog violent, whether the pain is internal or external. The advocate also adds that pit bulls were first bred as working dogs and companions. I believe this is inaccurate due to the fact that the nest reports that pit bulls does not refer to a specific breed, since they are made up of many other breeds, but they can be traced and linked back all the way to the extinct breed Molossus, which were dogs bred by ancient Greeks as war dogs and guard dogs. Modern day pit bulls originate from England and are a mix of bulldogs and Staffordshire bull terriers. And during the time in the early 1800s, these dogs were used for blood sports and bull baitings in England. And then another part that the advocate adds to support this position is that if pit bulls were so inherently bad, how do millions of people who own them have them in their homes, share beds, and have no problems? I believe this argument in itself is fallacious and is made up of three fallacies. They include and is a loaded question, begging the question, and places the burden of proof to the audience. The second supporting proposition claims that pit bull bite records are inaccurate and misidentified. I believe this is a selective perception because the advocate ignores any other information that doesn't appeal to them. This claim also appears to be based on opinion rather than a claim of fact. According to dogbites.org, pit bulls contributed to 78% of deaths caused by dog bite fatalities in 2015. Yet pit bulls only make up about 6.6% of the total U.S. dog population. The advocate further adds that bites and attacks will always have an effect. Bites and attacks are effects that will always have causes. Here the advocate uses causality as their main base of reasoning. However, this point does not support the advocate's main proposition because there are many factors that lead pit bulls to be violent, partly because of the way they were originally bred centuries ago. And then the advocate also continues saying that pit bulls are misidentified for other breeds. While this is true because of the many breeds that have contributed to creating today's pit bulls, like I said earlier, it has no relevance in supporting the argument that pit bulls aren't inherently aggressive. Furthermore, the advocate claims that pit bulls having a walking jaw mechanism is a myth. Again, I do not believe that this is neither relevant nor supporting the advocate's main position. Understanding how a specific dog bite works, has no correlation as to what causes a pit bull to be aggressive or non-aggressive, nor does this argue for either side. And the third and last supporting proposition claims that pit bulls are helpful members of society. And according to dogtime.com, most service dogs are from popular breeds such as the German Shepherd, Labrador Retriever, and Golden Retrievers. And due to the stigma against pit bulls in places with certain regulations on them, it is uncommon and rare that a pit bull is used as a service dog, according to barkpost.com. Therefore, there is little to none of proof that pit bulls are helpful members of society. And that's my refutation speech.
All right, the structural stuff is fine. The first point, you go right after the issue of their dangerousness, so to speak, and you suggest, that nature is always a part of this process, which I think is a reasonable claim to make. What information do we have about the nature of pit bulls and their makeup, their personalities? You basically have two things that you're developing here. One is that any animal could have a problem based on pain issues or some kind of undiagnosed medical issue, and if you could, for instance, demonstrate that pit bulls are more likely to have that kind of thing, I think that argument would be a little bit more useful. The second argument talks about the history of pit bulls and what they were bred for and how they were used in the past. And I assume that the breeding process, for instance, tries to emphasize certain characteristics, whether it is aggressiveness or speed or fierceness or something like that, fearlessness. There's got to be something that goes on there that distinguishes the dogs, and maybe then you could identify what it is in pit bulls that makes them potentially more problematic. The next argument consists of challenging the reasoning that the advocate uses by suggesting a series of fallacies, but you go through these so quickly without explaining exactly what it is that the advocate said and how your analysis of it demonstrates that it's not really valid. I'm not sure that you're getting the full weight of the analysis out there with that particular point. On your second point, the best piece of evidence that you have in the argument is this statistic that suggests that pit bulls are responsible for 78%, that's more than 3/4 of all deaths due to dog bites, but they represent only 6% of the dog population. So clearly they are disproportionately dangerous in some way to humans, at least when it comes to death. There's a statistical correlation here that gives a strong indicator to that. Your argument about causality, I'm not exactly sure that plays very well. The misidentification issue, we get a little bit lost on that. I'm not exactly sure either the advocate's position helped there. This whole thing about the locking jaw thing being a myth, I frankly don't remember what the argument was that the advocate presented. I'm not sure that I heard that argument. I'm not sure what your answer means to this point. Your last point concerning the helpfulness of the dogs, talk about something that's not relevant. I think that's your better argument. The notion, though, that you had a piece of evidence that suggested most of the service dogs really come from different breeds, I thought that was a good add to that particular point. All right, thank you.